In this video, I am going to show you how to use buttons, which are one of the most powerful tools that you can use in your projects because buttons ensure interactivity. So I'm going to show you first what that is going to look like. And to do that, I will click on this preview button and I'm just going to preview this slide. So when I click on a button, then I see something happen. And you can see that I can click on the buttons as many times as I like. So that's what we are going to build. So to insert images from our files, then we just go up to the Insert tab, and then we select Picture, and then from there, Picture from File. And this lets us pick any of the images that we have on our own computer. So I'm going to select multiple objects at once because I know I want to put all three of these balloons into my project. So I'm going to select the first one, then I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and then I'm going to select the last. So now I'm going to select Open, and now all of my objects are here. And you might be thinking, well, I only see a purple balloon. Where are the others? And they are underneath it. And you can tell that you have all of these objects on here because if you look down in the timeline, you will see all three of the images. You don't see it, but that's because the image is actually underneath. So I'm going to drag this one off to the side here, and then we can drag this one off to the side here, and now you can see all three balloons. To rename, you can just double click onto that actual name in the timeline and then just type in a new name. So I'm going to zoom way out so that I can see everything on the slide really easily, and I can also see the space below it and above it. And then I'm going to just select all my objects. Now I can just drag this around. When I hover over any of these, my icon on my mouse pointer changes to that 4-direction arrow, and that means that if at this point, I click my left mouse button, and then I drag, I can move those objects around. So I just want to move them beneath the slide. We are going to go and select on our purple balloon. And so now to add an animation path, we will go up to the Animations tab, and then we will select Add Motion Path. Now we already know we just want this balloon to go in a straight line. So this first one, this line is the one that we want. You can name your motion paths up here in this name section, and you can just simply double click in here to select the whole name, or you can also hit Control A on your keyboard while your cursor is inside there. So we want to just call this the purple path. So when we select on our purple balloon again, and we zoom way out, we can see the animation path itself. And the way we can tell that is this green dot will show the starting point, and then the red dot will show the ending point. And that point marks the center horizontally and vertically of our image. So you can see our starting point is right here with the balloon in its exact location, which is good. We want that. So then we can change the ending location by hovering over it, and when the mouse pointer becomes that hand, then if we click the left mouse button, then we can drag the balloon where we want it. And you can see when I am lined up exactly, that line gets a guideline on it that shows it's a straight line. So when I bring it above the slide, I can just find that straight line. Or I can also hold the Shift key, and that will kind of lock me to just a straight position. So even if I move to the left or the right, it will still stay straight. So then when I let go, then now my balloon and its string are safely above that slide. So you may not need to adjust the duration. The best way to check to see if you do is to just go and preview your slide and see how quickly that purple balloon flies through the screen. You can see in this case it goes by pretty fast, so I actually want to slow that down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my purple balloon again, and then I'm going to go to my Animations tab, and then up here there's a duration. So I can simply just keep clicking on it to increase it, Or I can also select it and then type directly into the field. So I want it to be 3 seconds. I've already done this before, and I know 3 seconds is a good amount of time for it. So let's go ahead now and test this with the 3 seconds. So again, I'm going to go up to preview and just preview this slide, and we're going to see if that balloon floats at a good speed. That looks great. So now we're happy with it. So we're going to save it. Now there's a couple of ways we can save it. I've already saved this project before, so I can just use this quick save button up in the top left corner. I also can hit Control S on my keyboard, which is the one I typically use just because my hands are often on my keyboard anyway. And then you also have the option of clicking on File and then clicking Save from there. When I click on that purple balloon, and I go back to the Animations tab, over on the far left there is this Animation Painter. And if I double click that button, when I move away, you're going to see my cursor now has a little paintbrush next to it. And that means that any objects I select are going to have that same animation applied to them. So I can just go down here and select my purple balloon, and I can select my orange balloon, and then now you saw those animation paths got drawn for those. Whenever you're done painting your objects with that animation style, then you can just go back up here and then select that animation paint again, and then it will remove that from your cursor. So we're on our orange balloon. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this. And then I'm going to do the same thing for our blue one. Did those all animate correctly? So we're going to go back up and preview this slide, and we should see all of our balloons floating up to the top. Perfect. We're going to go to the Insert tab, and then we're going to go over here to Button, and you can see there are 3 different options. It doesn't matter which you pick. You can change any of these at any point, but I'm going to go ahead and just pick the same one that I had used before. So I'm going to start in the top corner, approximately where I want it, and then I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and drag to the bottom right corner where I want it. And so that looks like a pretty good size button. So I'm going to name this one Purple Button. The great thing about using those default buttons that Storyline has is one of the things that's already built in is that it already has a text field associated with it. So if I click on a button and I just start typing, you will see the words just appear in a label on the button. And by default, it's already centered for me, so that's great. But if I want to change anything about that font, the way it appears, then this is just a regular text field that I can then use. So I can increase the font size, for instance. In this case, I want to make that larger. So whatever you can do with a text field, you can do with this. And at this point, maybe I want to actually change this. Maybe it's a little big and I don't want it to be as big as I had. And maybe I want to make sure this is perfectly aligned in my slide. So maybe I want to make sure that it's centered. A quick way to center things or position things is to use the Arrange button. And again, I'm on that Home tab and I have selected it on Arrange. And then I go to Align, and then if I align it in the center, then it's going to jump that over to where it's aligned with my vertical center. And then if I wanted to align it with like my horizontal center, I could do Align Middle. And you can see that pops it down here. Now I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo that last action. And to undo anything, you can hit Control Z, or you can also go up here to the top to this Undo button, and that will undo your last action as well. So adding a trigger is actually really simple. You just click on your object that you want to add the trigger to, and then you go over to the Triggers panel and select this icon. And when you hover over it, you'll see it says Create a New Trigger. When I select on that, my trigger wizard is going to open up. And what this does is it lets me tell it exactly what I want it to do. This is a trigger, meaning something has happened and then something else is going to happen as a result. So this first part says, what is the thing that happened? And that thing that happened is that when the user clicks on this purple button, then something's going to happen. I always like to start here because I always like to make sure that I'm understanding what I'm getting ready to create the effect for. So this is the cause, and now the action here is the effect. And the effect I want to happen now is that I want something to move, so that's correct. And the object I want to move is that I want that purple balloon to move along that purple path. Once I'm satisfied with the actions, then I'm going to click OK. And now we've added a trigger, and you can see it pop up down here, and it'll be highlighted. And this is, again, why I love to have those names for all of these objects, because it makes this part make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to go back up to preview this slide. And what we should see is that our balloons are still floating up there. That's great. But when I click that purple button, now that purple balloon floats up there. And you can see I can do it again, and it works again. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to happen. So now we're going to save. So I'm going to hit Control S, and you're going to watch. And you're going to see that asterisk is going to go away. And there it goes. So now I know I'm saved. So I'm going to hit Control C, and then I'm going to hit Control V twice. And you're going to see that's going to pop up 2 more buttons, and they're all going to just stack right on top of each other. Now what I like to do at this point when I have a stack, but I know I want to have them all aligned, is I will move my mouse until my cursor changes to that move button, and you can see I only have the top button selected. And I'm going to drag it down to approximately where I want it. So I like it about like here. And then I'm going to select all of my buttons. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to align them to the center. And so that means they all line up like that first one was, into the center. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to align them so that they are distributed vertically. That means the first one at the very top, which is our first one, and the lowest one, which in this case is the third button, it's going to distribute all the other buttons in between equidistance apart. So you'll see that middle button is going to jump into the center of both of them. So now we know that when the user clicks on the blue button, we want what? We don't want the purple balloon, we want the blue balloon. So now we can just find the blue balloon in our list. And let's find that here. Orange button, it has, when the user clicks it, we want to move the orange balloon, and we want that to be along the orange path. So now let's take a moment here and just check that we got those buttons correct. And again, we see all 3 floating up at first, and we'll have to turn that off. And we didn't change our labels, but we know this one should make the orange balloon go up, and this one should make the blue balloon go up, and they do. So the easiest way to change the label is just simply double click on it and then type a new one. So in this one, we're going to say orange, and in this one, we're going to say blue. And then those 3 balloons that were floating up at first, we want to turn those off because we don't want to show them the balloons until they click the buttons. We want it to be a surprise what's going to happen. So when you look over here, you will see you have a blue balloon trigger, and then you also have a blue button trigger. Well, we made the button triggers. We know we want triggers for the buttons, but we don't need a trigger on the balloon. So we're just going to select that trigger, and then we're going to delete it. So I can either hit delete on my keyboard, or I can hit this delete icon up here. So once I confirm that, now I can go and find the other. So again, my orange balloon, I do not want a trigger on that, so I'm going to delete that. And then on my purple balloon, I don't want a trigger on that. So I'm going to delete that. Now I just have the button triggers. So we have 3 blue buttons, and that's just, you could be okay with that, but I'm not. I want the button color to match the button name. So when you select on a button and you go to this format option up here at the top, you will see these button styles. And if you want to expand this, you can hit this lower arrow here, and then you can see all of the different styles. Now, I said earlier that it didn't matter if you picked a rounded button, you could change it later. Here's an easy way to change it. If we decided, oh, I really want this button to be a square. I don't want it to be rounded. I just decided I don't like that. and I want it to have this kind of shine effect on it, then I can just simply select that, and now my button is that style. And then I can do the same thing for the orange button. So again, I'm going to hit that so I can see those square buttons easily. And then I'm going to find that shiny orange button. And then I'm going to do it for the blue as well. And I'm going to go find that shiny blue. And now you can see, now my buttons all match the same style. All right, so now let's test this and see. So we're going to hit the slide, preview. And when we hit this button, this button, this button, we get our balloons just like we expect. Perfect. So here I have another example where I've pushed that a little bit further and I've used some random variables, and I want to show you what this does. Before we only had 3 balloons and they always floated up in exactly the same place. Well, now we still have 3 balloons, but now you'll notice now I've got some purple and orange and blue going in different places. And so it just makes it a little bit more interesting that the balloons are kind of going up in more places, and they're happening random. So if I hit this 3 times in a row, it came up there, then it went there. You can see it's got 3 different locations, and it's randomly picking each time which place it's coming from. It just adds a little bit of more interest to it, and it's using, again, like I said, some random number variables to control that action. So that's something that you can look forward to as you advance in Storyline. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you have fun playing with buttons and animations in Storyline, and I look forward to the next video. Thanks for watching, sharing, and improving education, one essential step at a time.